Hey, Ashton here from Precision Horology. Today we're going to have a brief look at the tools I use and recommend to remove hands from watches safely and without any damage to the hand or the dial. So let's get into it. So here we have the general selection of hand lifting levers that I use. I prefer the lever style personally, and these are my general favorites. The Bourjon 30027. I actually recently purchased these after using the Horotech style for a long time, but I just found that these had a much better angle to be able to get a good leverage on the dial. I found the Horotech to be a little short. I had to lean the hand lifter down too much, but I found these ones have that really perfect angle for general work. Sometimes you encounter a dial that has a very steep set of hands or a high set of hands and you don't have a lot of room to get underneath. The Bourjon 30028, these are fantastic for that kind of hand. Think like Breitling chronograph with an outer rim on the dial where you don't have a lot of space. These are absolutely indispensable. These hand lifters just make taking those kind of hands off an absolute breeze. And it's just indispensable in the workshop to make sure that there's no damage to the hand or the dial. So the one with the steep tips again was the Bourjon 30028 and the 30027 for the general work. Next up we have my old Horotech pair of hand lifting levers. Now these still serve a great purpose in my workshop. I use them generally for small sub-dials of chronograph hands, just because I can get under there and I can make the tips really, really thin. A lot of the times when it comes to watchmaking tools, they aren't ready out of the bag. Same is true for screwdrivers. They need to be sharpened. Same thing as with these hand lifting levers. We sometimes need to stone them down so that we can really get a nice thin tip underneath the hand. To stone them down, I like to use a general diamond stone. I find it does the best job. And basically, we put the lever onto the diamond stone and we just dress it until it's at its desired thickness. Now obviously once we've stoned it down, we're going to have a bit of a rough finish, and that's where these Bourjon leather buff sticks come in. These are so great. They serve a variety of uses. You can polish hands with them, you can polish dial indices, but they work really well too when it comes to polishing the hands. You can just put a little bit of polywatch, which is a crystal polisher, onto the leather part of the buff stick, and you can polish the tip of the hand. Polywatch I've suggested just because it's easy and a lot of people have it. You could use diamantine, you could use a variety of polishing compounds, but honestly, a bit of polywatch on there on the leather buff, and it's going to shine that surface up nicely so that it's ready to meet with the dial and be able to lift the hand off. Probably the most important part of hand removal is protecting the dial. I like to use the inside of a small kind of plastic parts bag. Bourjon do make a specific dial protector for removing hands, but I find that the inside of a clean parts bag really does the job super well. They're relatively cheap to buy these bags and they're indispensable when it comes to protecting the dial. You can see we just put the plastic over the dial, remove the hands, and we're able to lift them off freely, and it works without any issue. Another important thing to remember is the correct storage of the hands. Here we have vintage chronograph hands, and we can see that I've actually put them in Rodico. If we shake the box, there's no movement, the hands aren't getting marked or damaged in any way. If they're painted hands, just be careful. We wouldn't want to put them upside down on the Rodico with the paint facing the Rodico, because that could rip off any paint and actually devalue the watch. So pivot or post side down, you could say, into the Rodico, and that's the safest way to keep the hands instead of a plastic bag where they're hitting each other. The last tool to talk about would be the Presto tool. This is more of an automated tool, you could say, for removing hands. Basically, you squeeze the two sides of the metal piece there, and what happens is the plastic stumps, they sit on the dial, and the two levers on the end, they lift up the hands like so. This is a cheap version of the Presto tool. This is one that's a material supply house's homemade version, I guess you could say, or they have made for them. To be honest, it's a piece of junk. The thing doesn't work, the tips are too thick, and it falls apart. So if you do want to go with the Presto tool, highly recommend getting the official Bergeon Presto tool. But again, it's not something I use. It's not anything that I've ever really used. If you decide to, use plastic. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you're a watchmaker, a hobbyist, an enthusiast, I'd love to hear what method you use to remove hands and why you guys use that method and prefer it. So perhaps you can leave it in the comments section. And if anybody has any ideas for further videos you'd like, specific tools you'd want to know how to use, or know what I like to use, please leave it in the comments section. And if you have enjoyed this video and want to see more, it really means a lot to me if you hit that subscribe button if you've enjoyed the content. It helps me to know what audience I'm reaching and also how I can put out better content in the future and continue to produce this kind of content. So thanks very much, everybody, and I'll see you next time.